This is a story about a cat, a very special cat, the one and only Detective Fluffy. Fluffy lives with a human whose name is Steve. One day Steve was supposed to go for a job interview, but he couldn't find his lucky rainbow socks. Without them, he didn't think he could get the job. So he called in sick and stayed home, which made Detective Fluffy very suspicious. For the last year, Steve had lost over 420 socks, and Fluffy knew something was up. Every time Steve did laundry, the washing machine would eat a pair of socks, and then they would never be seen again. Fluffy had searched everywhere, behind the dryer, under the bed, even in the washing machine, but there was no sign of the missing socks. They had literally vanished into thin air. But now that Steve was home and not going to work, Fluffy finally had time to get to the bottom of this mystery. First, he questioned the washing machine, but it just kind of blinked at him. Then he went to the dryer, a wise old dryer named Spinny who told him, if you want answers, you're gonna have to ask the gnomes. Gnomes. Turns out the washing machine was infested with tiny little sock gnomes who stole the socks to make colourful hammocks in their underground kingdom inside the washer. The gnomes were led by the grumpy yet majestic King Lint, who sat on a throne made of lint and old coffee grounds. At first, he wouldn't tell Fluffy where the socks went, but eventually he agreed to make a deal with the detective in exchange for the location of Steve's socks. Fluffy had to take part in the annual Gnome Olympics, specifically the sock puppet dance battle, and if Fluffy won, the gnomes would give him the socks back. But if he lost, he had to live the rest of his life as a gnome, which didn't sound all that bad since they had tiny houses made of dryer sheets and everything was powered by lint balls. On the day of the competition, Fluffy was paired up with a brave little gnome warrior named Shelley. Together, they practiced a series of dance moves that involved lots of hopping, bopping and spinning, culminating in a final pose that looked just like Steve. Their goal was to imitate him so well that the judges, 3 elderly socks on a panel, would declare them the winners. But when it was their turn to perform, disaster struck. Shelley got stage fright and completely froze up. The other teams were much more prepared. There was the Funky Bunch, a group of 12 gnomes dressed as bell peppers. Their routine involved lots of salsa dancing and impressive synchronized spinning. And then there was the Lint Lassies, a trio of sassy older gnomes who performed a routine that poked fun at the other competitors. By the time it was back to Fluffy and Shelley, the audience had already been wowed by some amazing acts. Fluffy tried to encourage Shelley, but she was still too scared to dance. Just when Fluffy thought all hope was lost, he remembered what Spinny had told him. The gnomes just wanted to be friends. So maybe if Fluffy could show them that he wasn't just there to take their precious socks, but that he actually wanted to be their friend, then maybe Shelley would feel less threatened. So before they started their dance, Fluffy took a moment to look directly at the audience and said, I may be a cat, but I'm also a dancer, a lover, not a fighter. Then he and Shelley began their routine, which instead of trying to look like Steve, now looked like them being friends. They played, they fought off evil butterflies, and they snuggled. It was the cutest thing the socks on the panel had ever seen. And although they technically hadn't done any of the other dance moves they had practiced, somehow Fluffy and Shelley won the competition. The gnomes kept their word and returned Steve's socks, and Fluffy made some pretty cool gnome friends along the way. The end.